So a paper came out recently that looked at the impact of the MeToo movement on academia, and it actually shows that post-MeToo, women's productivity fell largely due to fewer collaborations with male researchers. The paper shows that this drop is most pronounced at universities where the perceived risk of sexual harassment accusations is highest. So the actual findings comparing research before and after the movement are right here, and as you can see, after the MeToo movement, collaborations with male researchers inside the same institution fell to close to zero. The author points out that men feel like if they accidentally say the wrong thing, they could be canceled or fired. She also notes that institutions that have clear policies on sexual harassment help reduce this perceived risk. And this isn't just in academia. The paper also cites a 2018 study which showed that 60% of male managers are uncomfortable participating in common activities with women due to the same concerns. And a curious finding of the study was that men make up for the loss in this collaboration by just collaborating more with other men, whereas women don't make up for it at all. The author concludes her findings by saying that MeToo was important for raising awareness, but it's also increasingly important for institutions to have really clear sexual harassment guidelines.
We had a couple of weeks ago, we had this conversation. We had members of Congress on and said, why not go through the ethics process with Al Franken? And the answer was the process is flawed and it favors members of Congress. And that very well may be true, but it's the process you've got. Yeah. So you don't throw out due process
altogether. I think the process itself
is
what we need to be talking about before we talk about the men, because the process needs to be it's going to be complicated, but I think women feel that they are maligned and mistreated through the process, and therefore they're afraid to step forward. So we need to look at the process. But right now, any woman can say anything, and a man's career is ruined. Now, a lot of women can say things that are true, and their career should be ruined.
By the way,
but the problem is
by the way, hold on,
that any woman can say anything, and that's it, it's over. Is that how we're running businesses now?
There is a reporter whose name I will not mention, a very good reporter who was called in, was not told what he was accused of by an anonymous person, and he was immediately dismissed. So not only do you not get to face your accuser, in this case, you don't even get to know what the charges are against you. So when you hire a lawyer, you can't defend yourself. And again, if this is where this movement takes us, this is very dangerous, and not just dangerous for men. This is dangerous for everybody. This is
why the solution is in a more transparent workplace, in open-door policies, in ways that prevent these types of things from ever happening. It's why we have to look at how we do business. We have to make hard changes, and we have to, pull back a little bit. Some of the ideas I've had in the past have seemed a little bit like Elizabethan times or something, but you know what? We have to prevent the possibility. Instead of having some HR office that you run to after and you're cowering in there, you don't want to show your face, and you think no one will believe you. That's a problem. I totally understand what women face here. I just also I'm stricken. I'm chilled by some of the cases I'm seeing now of people being run out of their jobs, bankrupted, and due process.
I will say again, I'll go back. Whatever the movement is, whatever the cause is, if you think it is bigger than due process, giving people an opportunity to be heard and making sure that people, I know there are some people that say, well, you know what, if some people get destroyed, if their lives get destroyed, that's a small prize.
I know men who say they won't hire women now, so that's great.
That's stupid. Yeah.
Well, what would you do? If someone could just say, Sam touched me inappropriately.
You need to have an atmosphere that's open to women coming forward.
So, Sam, what happens 20 years from now? What happens 20 years from now, Sam? Where somebody says, I worked with Sam Stein at the Huffington Post, and we were having drinks one night, and he put his hand on my leg. What happens in this environment? 20 years from now, you're fired.
Well, I'll say I work at the Daily Beast.
I know, but back when, back when you first started at the Huffington Post, that's the environment we're in now.
I want to go back to my original point, which is I don't think there is, I agree that there is a really difficult problem here of due process, and it needs to be, whoever is accused, it needs to at least have their point heard and the ability to face their accusers, which is due process, the essential element of due process. I worry, and I just want to make sure, like, that you allow an environment where the actual victims here are still able to come forward and say, you know what, this happened.
Yeah.
And this is difficult. I mean, with the problem with Al in the end was that he had a series of incidents where he was grabbing people's butts. That doesn't say he shouldn't get due process.
Is there a picture of that?
He admitted that it likely happened. So I just want to be clear. The problem that Al faced was Al's own making. Yeah. Now, the secondary problem was what happens when those things come out into the fore. In that case, Al did deserve to have, I don't know why I keep calling him Al, Senator Franken did deserve to have due process. But let's not act like the system screwed him. He screwed himself. That's all I'm saying.
Mika, the change...
Women may face the unintended consequence of the MeToo movement and have only themselves to blame. A recent study in the journal Organizational Dynamics reveals how men's behavior toward their female colleagues has changed dramatically since the movement gained momentum. 27% of men currently avoid meetings with female colleagues. That's right. Almost a third of men hesitate to be alone with a woman at work. Additionally, 21% of men admit that they would hesitate to hire women for jobs that require close contact, such as business travel, and 19% of men admit they thought twice about hiring an attractive woman. A survey conducted across industries in early 2019 paints an alarming picture compared to similar questions asked in early 2018. At the time, at the height of MeToo, 15% of men did not want to hire women for jobs that required intimacy. Interpersonal interactions. By 2019, this figure had risen to 21%. These statistics reveal a troubling trend. The very movement to create a safer and more equal workplace for women may have inadvertently caused men to become more cautious and hesitant, which can hinder women's career opportunities.
Now, here's a quick one about a gal who she, as well as her female coworkers, are having a meltdown because a guy at work isn't paying attention to them. And as I say, women, they need attention and validation the same way plants need sunlight and water. And how if a guy rejects them, either rejects their advances, doesn't pay attention to them, they lose their freaking minds. Title: A colleague at work, a 27-year-old male of 1 year, refuses to socialize with me, a 24-year-old female, or any of the women in our office. Oh, the travesty. There are plenty of other horrible things going on in the world, but nothing is as horrible as a guy, God forbid, not paying attention to you and your friends. She says here, "Hi all. I'm posting this on alternative site because I know a few of my friends are following me on here, and I don't want this spilling out until I have some clear thoughts on what I want to do." Oh, you're trying to say you don't want any drama because something tells me you like drama. So early last year, our firm hired Dan, a 27-year-old male. In the first few weeks, he was really quiet and didn't talk much, and that's just how we thought he was. Every conversation with him was short and to the point and never deviated from work, aside from pleasantries, have a nice weekend, etc. About 2 months ago, he started becoming a bit more friendly with the guys in our office, and they would hang out every so often after work and have normal conversations. Isn't it interesting that she and her friends are really paying close attention to what this guy's doing? However, whenever any of the girls in the office tried to do so, he would quickly change the conversation back to just work or not reply. Even now, after a year of Dan working with us, he straight up refuses to socialize with the girls in the office, and he's making them feel uncomfortable. Oh, now he's the bad guy. He's making us feel uncomfortable. Maybe he's sticking to business. Maybe he's worked at a place where the girls act like it's high school and wants nothing to do with that. Or maybe he's become very RP'd, understands about MGTOW, things like that, knows the Mike Pence rule, and he's doing that for a good reason. But he's making you uncomfortable. He avoids any discussion of himself outside of work-related events and future plans and doesn't ask any of the girls either. Aware as he is, what can I only assume, pretty good friends with the guys in the office. Even on work meals out to celebrate events, he's only doing the bare minimum when it comes to conversation with the girls, where again with the guys, he talks to them like there is no problem whatsoever. I don't know if I'm overreacting. You sure about that? But one of the girls is considering going to HR about this because she is saying it's creating a hostile work environment. Dan treats us like he treats clients we work with, cordial and strictly about business, and it's wearing thin now. Any advice is appreciated. Okay, she asked for advice, so I'll give some advice. You and your friends need to grow the F up. You're 24 years old, so I'm assuming all the female coworkers are probably in the 20s. We all know what generation they're in, between the Z-tards and the millennials, and she's certainly behaving like a bunch of Z-tards and millennials. Your work is a place of business to earn a paycheck to pay for your living expenses or to build a career, not high school. But she's acting like it's high school. If this guy doesn't want to talk to you, that's his business. He probably has experience where BS goes on, gossiping and drama and turmoil, which you're creating drama, and wants nothing to do with it. And given how you're acting here and saying that it's a unpleasant work environment or some BS like that and thinking about going to HR, gee, you wonder why he doesn't want to talk to you. Problem is this: you can't handle the fact that a guy doesn't want to pay attention to you, that a guy isn't flirting with you, asking you out and all that, and it's driving you freaking crazy.
We have all witnessed the layoffs of thousands of employees over the past couple of years at companies like Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, and Twitter. The consequences of COVID on organizations became evident when they recognized they had hired excessively during the pandemic. You might not be aware of this, but the majority of businesses have stopped recruiting women. It might be surprising to learn that more firms are refusing to hire women to fill their positions, and no corporation will admit this to you. Why? Because women bring a lot of drama to the table, and endless cases of ruining employee culture by falsely accusing male colleagues who no longer want to work with women.
The MeToo movement has created a tense environment in workplaces, with men fearing false accusations of harassment and treating female colleagues cautiously. This has led to a lack of professional growth and avoidance of interaction. The line between appropriate and inappropriate behavior is now blurred, causing confusion and everyone to walk on eggshells in socializing at work.
One of my coworkers came at me today because apparently she just couldn't take it anymore. She was like, "Brandon, I have to say something. I noticed you don't use any African American women in your videos. What are you trying to pull? Like, we all know that there are black single moms out there." I said, "Yes, there are plenty of black single moms out there, Vanessa. But front camera, crying, adding music, and you posting it? I don't think so."
It's hard to be a man in today's world. Who knew that a simple hello could mean the end of a career? It's amazing that you can do all the work without fearing that a misdirected compliment might put you on the unemployment line. Of course, it makes perfect sense to avoid interacting with women. Who needs professional relationships when you can just hang out with your brothers? Why risk it anyway when one wrong move can decide everything?
Earlier this year, I had the displeasure of dealing with a female coworker harassing a male coworker. A male subordinate comes to me to report the female subordinate. She decided that she wanted his opinion on fellatio techniques. She asked him because he's openly gay. I went with him to HR to report. HR calls everyone involved to get their side. At this point, the female employee realizes the male employee snitched and begins bad-mouthing him. HR hands down punishment based on zero tolerance policy. 3 days unpaid suspension for the male victim, but only 1 day unpaid suspension to the female employee because she's pregnant and we can't cause too many problems. The male employee came back from suspension with legal representation. The female employee came back and all the male employees avoided her and any situation where they would need to be alone with a female employee.
But tonight, one retired CEO is speaking out about why he thinks this might end up having the wrong effect on women in the workforce.
Steve, Tricia, well, this new wave of women standing up against sexual misconduct has led to all sorts of changes. But tonight, one CEO believes it may be preventing women from getting the jobs they want.
From the entertainment industry to the gaming world, women everywhere are standing up against sexual misconduct in the workplace.
It's a new day. It is the era of the woman now.
The latest case has brought this movement right to the Las Vegas Strip. Casino mogul Steve Wynn stepping down as CEO yesterday after allegations he sexually assaulted employees. But is time really up?
I have a big concern. And it's what's going to happen in hiring going forward.
Mark Yoseloff is the director of UNLV's School of Gaming and Innovation and hired hundreds of men and women as former CEO of Shufflemaster. He says this movement will make it tougher for women to get hired, especially when they're up against a qualified man.
They might elect to hire the man because they are concerned that down the road, whether they do anything wrong or not, There might be a she said, he said.
Yoslov says current CEOs he knows have already opted not to sit in meetings alone with women in fear they would do something to spark a complaint.
It's a craziness that no executive wants to have to face.
The content discusses the classic tale of gender bias where a man is harassed by a woman, but when he speaks up, he faces consequences instead of receiving support. In a society where gender roles are skewed, the idea of a man being a victim of harassment is often met with disbelief and scorn. There is a growing trend of women expressing reluctance to hire other women, with some indicating they are less inclined to hire attractive women. The narrative points out the irony and comedic turnaround where men, who have traditionally borne the brunt of the MeToo, are now seeing some women facing consequences for their actions, showing that no one is immune to the repercussions of their behavior.
Many people, including myself, only became aware of the Me Too movement in 2017 when Rose McGowan, a white wealthy woman who was a famous actress, brought it up. But it was actually started all the way back in 2006 by Tarana Burke, an African-American social activist. Women of color have been speaking up about sexual abuse in low-income workspaces for ages, but they never garnered the same attention as a rich white actress.
Well, isn't this awesome? Due to the hard work and efforts of feminism in the Me Too movement has made men not only be extra careful working with women in the workplace, but it is making men not even want to work with women.
I was joking with you earlier that it's like trendy to get it together when it comes to, you know, making a safe environment for women. And right now, it seems as though there's beginning to be a movement. Why?
Well, I think there's starting to be a dialogue about it, right? And like anything, you know, it takes a long time for that dialogue to become, you know, something that becomes kind of normal. You know, on About.me, when we spun out of AOL, we had 13 people that were on our team, 13 men, right? I'm not proud. That's not okay. You know, to fast forward today, we have 11 women and, you know, we have 14 men, right? So we have a team of 25. So we didn't make it like a mantra internally because I think that diminishes somewhat. Then, oh, we're only hiring whatever. But I, as a CEO and as a leader and as a founder, is something that I uniquely can impact. And I had an eye towards it in a very quiet way. We have navigated, right? And we made sure that we had great candidates, both for men and women. And then when we've had opportunity to grab like incredibly professional, seasoned, accomplished, talented women, like we've done it. You know, like we've created an environment where they're gonna feel comfortable, right? We don't have Nerf guns in our office, our silly startup culture. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're not sending out all these, you know, signals of this is a dude frat party.
Sometimes founders don't even realize it may be a place with all Nerf guns and like, you know, it just feels like a dude frat party. Like, do you have women advisors? Do you have people, do you guys have conversations?
Yeah, we have conversations.
With other founders?
You read, you pay attention to it. It's something that at my station of life, my age, like it's inexcusable to not have your ears open and to dive in and be knowledgeable, like what's happening. So we ask, you know, one of my partners just did a great thing where he asked some of the female founders of true portfolio companies, what's that like pitching us? You know, what are the things that we, you know, haven't been sensitized to because we're all guys, right? So let's like, you know, like, okay, so let's open up and let's think about, listen, we have a long list and we are so far from where we need to be. But I'm really proud of the ability for our team to open up and listen to it and then like figure out like what we want to go do about it.
And that concludes today's discussion on MGTOW Voice. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on future videos. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video.